Hello, everyone. Welcome to ESGI's webinar series. Today's topic is Student Voice, Student Choice. I'm Rochelle, and I'm excited to be your host for today's webinar featuring the one and only Debbie Clement from Rainbows Within Reach. We'll get started with Debbie's presentation in just a moment. But first, we have a few housekeeping details for you. For better audio and video quality, close all other applications like Skype that use bandwidth. If you're having any audio or video issues, try refreshing or changing your browser. We will be using the question feature today since everyone is muted during the webinar. If you have a question, type it in the box. Let's practice now. Everyone, find the question box and type in what type of weather you're having this evening. That's awesome. It looks like we have people from all over with all different types of weather represented today. For attending live on the webinar today, you will receive a certificate of attendance. Your certificate will be emailed to you within 2 days. That email will also contain a link to today's broadcast. And now for prizes. 5 lucky winners will receive a 1-year ESGI license, and 3 winners will get to choose from Debbie Clement herself a pair of wobble seats. Look at how great those look. Winners will be announced at the end, so make sure you stay on until then. There is no need to register for the prizes. The winners are chosen randomly. Also, all attendees to the live broadcast will receive Debbie's freebie, which is a downloadable song just for you and your students. We at ESGI are thrilled that so many of you have registered to learn with Debbie today. Debbie Clement is an awesome music lady, author, and illustrator, and speaker. If you're lucky, Debbie Clement can visit you at your school. She will be able to tell you how, either live in person or virtually. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Debbie and let the learning begin.
Okay, can you hear me? Am I here? Am I here? Rochelle? Yes?
Yes, everything's great.
Okay, well that's me. That's how I picture myself, with arms wide open and a big smile and lots of polka dots. Now this is what I look like to any given child in kindergarten. I have my stripes and my polka dots, that's for sure. And if you had a chance to look over my shoulder, this is what you might see. Crystal Radke actually took this picture for me at her school. She was last month's presenter, and I was able to visit her and be with her kindergarten kids in Texas a little while ago. So we sing and we dance and we move, and we're going to do some of that tonight. I do want to tell you a big, huge thanks to all my friends at ESGI. And as you know, those of you that have already used the software, the incredible amount of time that it gets saved from your teacher day and your teacher life. And what that can allow for is all the important fun of the singing and the dancing and all the other good things. Now, I have my own promo code, which is Rainbows. So if you ever want to try it out and get a couple months for free to take a look, just use Rainbows. And then if you would decide that that is in fact an investment that you want to make, you'll receive a $40 savings using the Rainbows promo code. All right, so with no further ado, let's get started. And I take a deep breath as I think about everything that's happened here in our country over this last week, a week ago today. And I thought it would be appropriate if we just take a heartbeat of time and send out good love and good support to all those in Florida specifically, in Parkland immediately, but all those that this week has affected as we relive other unfortunate tragedies. So let's get quiet for just a heartbeat together. And then we want to move from that quiet and that solitude, and if you're a praying person, from your prayers to taking action. And today, in the last days, I saw this on Instagram, flooding the page, arm me with. And then everyone had filled in the blank. What do they need? Arm me with respect, dignity, autonomy. Let's have developmentally appropriate expectations. Let's have a restoration of the arts. So even taking a step as small as making your voice heard on Instagram lets you know that you're part of a movement that is so critically needed here in our country. We welcome those who are already in tomorrow. I know we have folks registered from Australia and China and New Zealand. So thank you for letting us know that tomorrow's on the way to us as well. If we teach today, as we taught yesterday, then we rob our children of tomorrow. If we teach today, as we taught yesterday, then we rob our children of tomorrow, and how quickly things can change in the blink of an eye. One of my happy responsibilities is that I am a founder of a Twitter chat. Who would have ever thought this grandma would have the idea to design a Twitter chat? And here we are 3.5 years later, every Tuesday night, last night, talking to each other on Twitter. And ESGI has been a long-term sponsor for us there at the hashtag #TeacherFriends. One of our guests, Jonathan Gerlach, said this in the midst of a chat one week: in an era when all content is Googleable, all knowledge is available at a click, what is the role of school? And I might extend that a little bit further. What is the role of the teacher when all content is available a click away? That's what we're going to be thinking about and sharing about from my perspective tonight. I think your role as a teacher is to be, in the words of Eleanor Garrison, a teacher is a compass that activates the magnets of curiosity, knowledge, and wisdom. And we can all use some more wisdom. If you have a chance to follow and to learn along with one person, I would certainly suggest Sir Ken. All of his recordings, and there are many that you can find on YouTube from speaking engagements around the world. Now that he's moved to this country, there may be an audience where you can get to hear him yourself. But he says the gardener does not make a plant grow. The job of the gardener is to create optimal conditions. And then the question is, how? How do we do that? How do we create those optimal conditions? And that's what we're going to spend this evening thinking about. So here's a three-pronged concept from the Washington State Superintendent. We have to all link arms together and believe that children are the priority. I hope there are heads nodding from here to Canada and one person from Bermuda. Children are the priority. Change is the reality. Our world moves at lightning speed. And then perhaps the most significant there is that collaboration is the strategy. Children are the priority. That's why we're in early childhood. Change is the reality. We don't have any choice about that. So collaboration is the strategy. And this thought from Dr. Montessori from over 100 years ago: the environment must be rich in motives which lend interest to activity and invite the child to conduct his own experiences. Again, the environment has to be rich and fulfilling. She goes on 100 years ago to say, whoa, there it is. When chairs were used, children were not disciplined, but annihilated. The introduction of chairs, in Dr. Montessori's opinion, did not help with discipline, but in fact led to annihilation for the children. So let's take a look at that environment. I believe, in the words of Frederick Douglass, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Throughout this evening's presentation, I'm going to share with you images that I have found throughout the web. This one, for example, from Instagram. There will be others from Twitter and Facebook and people's blogs. And I've worked really hard to attribute this hard work that you're going to be seeing in classrooms to the person to whom it belongs. Your voice matters. Your voice matters. Student voice and student choice. If there's anything that we can convey, literally to have the walls shouting, your voice matters, you are important, you're significant. Who you are, who you came into this room this morning, it matters. Who you are, your unique vision, your unique experience. So the how, in thinking, how do we design this garden, if you will, is to think first in terms of classroom design. So this evening we're going to spend roughly a chunk of time. I won't give fractions. We're going to spend a chunk of time thinking about classroom design. And then we're going to move on to collaboration and affirmation and authentic art. And we're going to conclude with maker spaces and loose parts. So classroom design, thinking from literally from the ground up, if you will, the floor. So here I am. That's not really, honest to goodness, my exact classroom growing up, but it could have been, because I have all these pictures of my childhood and they're all in black and white, not artful black and white recreations, but they had not invented color when I was a child. So that could be me over in the second row with glasses and the short bangs. But anyhow, we want to do away with the old. This has actually been called the graveyard, where the desks are arranged in tombstone order, one following after the other. And the short little kid is in the front row and the tall kids are in the back. So we want to do away with that as we think about moving into the future and in with the new. Of course, in 2018, it's all about the hashtag. So whether or not you're searching alternative seating or flexible seating, it's all about the hashtag. And then finding vignettes in classrooms near and far of what other teachers have done. For me, as an author illustrator who gets to go into classrooms from coast to coast, and sometimes I've been fortunate enough to be in classrooms on the other side of the ocean, I have seen any number of exciting variations on a theme. I think where we have to start, as you move from that graveyard, if you will, and tombstones in a row, is to begin with reflection and introspection. And what is it that you're trying to accomplish and why? And then probably one of the very first issues that I think you have to wrestle with is the concept of control. And how much control are you willing to share with your students? And how much student choice are you comfortable with in your own classroom? Before we even purchase a new anything or get rid of an old anything, I think we can begin with the idea of permission. Here in Cindy Price's classroom, you see a traditional table and traditional chairs, and yet flexible seating, alternative seating, children engrossed in reading with flashlights in a darkened room. How fun is that? Nothing has to happen to anyone's budget to give children permission to move about the room. Maggie's kindergarten, a similar concept. They're reading, they're collaborating, they're knees to knees over here on the right, and on the left, they're just kicking back, literally. How fun is that? I think you can see her table there has been lowered to give another height. Blue skies, look at these kiddos. Didn't have to change anything about the furniture in the room. Just need to give the children permission to do what kids will do naturally, right? Here's an authentic choice. Desks and chairs, and the kids there in the back are choosing to sit at their desk on their chair. And then some of these kiddos in the front have created more of a lazy boy with a pillow. So that's an authentic choice, and no budget has been impacted. But again, allowing the kids the choice. Now we're going to start tiptoeing ever so quietly in the direction of how do we move with alternative seating. And I think clipboards make the first transition, having a great big bucket of clipboards, all right? And so then your students have the opportunity to move about the room, to talk together, to collaborate, to explore all of the various environmental print that you have already in the room. Gives your students exciting opportunities. Here we have 6 benefits of flexible seating in the classroom as presented to us by the Kendall Christian School. Number 1, choice. Number 2, movement. Number 3, community. Number 4, comfort. Number 5, collaboration. And number 6, sensory input. Now, depending on which student it is, you may need to rethink or reorder those, but 6 very major benefits of having flexible seating in your classroom. That collaboration that we talked about. Certainly for any child that has any sort of sensory deprivation, whether or not it's ADD or ADHD or autism or Asperger's or sensory processing disorder or any combination thereof, having sensory input through flexible seating can offer that child a huge benefit. Now, here's the disclaimer, and I do want to be completely transparent about this. These wobble seats that you see here. So this is my 22nd year of being a music lady, travel around, have fun, sing and dance person. And I guess I've been an author illustrator now for maybe the last, I should have checked, maybe 12 years, maybe about a little over half that time since my picture books came out. Anyhow, about 4 years ago, I was presenting at a state conference and had a vendor's booth in the exhibit hall, and the wobble people had a booth right beside me. Well, for the 10 years before this most recent stretch of my professional time, I was a resource teacher in a private school for young children with special needs. And as soon as I saw these wobbles and as soon as I saw them move, I literally lit up and thought, this is the answer for some children. Just imagine if some of our kids would have had access to this. And so I told Wobble Bob, that's what I call him, Wobble Bob. I said, Wobble Bob, I'm going to take one of these wobbles home and use it at my desk, and I know I'm going to love it. And then I'll have my husband build us a website, and I'll cart them all about the country to conferences, and we'll be a distributor. So that's how this collaboration has gone together. So whenever you order from wobbleseat.com, you are ordering from me, from my husband, Alan, actually processes your purchase orders and offers you the quantity discounts and answers your question. So you are supporting a small business. I do want to say that wobble seats were, in fact, the originators of the stool that moves. I've met the inventor. He's a musician, and he wanted to have a moving stool to literally rock and roll and play his guitar. It was made out of wood and first sold to others through the New York Museum of Modern Art. And then teachers saw it, and they wanted it in their classrooms, and now the rest is history. All right. So let's go on. We're thinking about flexible seating and putting it all together. So maybe some of this and some of that and some of those. And then how do you bring it together? Again, from Cindy's classroom, we see a combination of baskets and buckets. And again, the ever endearing flashlight. She's also got some fun inflatable bits that give little islands for her students spread about the classroom. Here's some boat boxes, if you will, on the left, kind of a Rubbermaid with the lid cut, so you've got a little desk area. And on the right, I hadn't seen this idea in person before, my Google searching, but the use of a laundry basket for the older kids on top of a traditional desk can become a standing desk with the clipboard. And again, just alternating the heights of what's available. We know that standing and walking and moving, anytime we can increase that blood flow throughout the whole body into the brain, we're going to get a better response from the kids. Look at this one. Okay, so one smiley teacher. You know, when I think of alternative seating, I think of open floor space, right? Lots of room to roam, lots of room to regroup and move things around. A great big rug, and then she's got islands. There's some wobble seats, there's some crate seats, there's pillows, and some small area rugs then to delineate spaces within the room. Again, open-ended, lots of space, lots of flexibility. This affords your students the opportunity to work together with this group of kids today or this morning and someone else in the afternoon and yet a different partner later on. This one, again, open, colorful. Of course, if you know me, I'm a person that loves color. My real degree is actually in art and art education and design and graphics. And that's how the illustration part comes into my world. Allegra has such an attractive setting here. She's got wobbles, the pillows, the traditional chairs, some stability balls, other stools over there on the far right, and a big rug. But again, it's that permission. How's that child going to be encouraged and literally supported in their reading approach? Some vignettes, if you will, little areas that just want a small group to cozy together and put their heads together. Look at this on the left. It literally looks like a living room. So there's some comfortable seating and a fireplace, a faux fireplace, and even pictures hung over the fireplace, if you will, to make it look like home, to feel cozy, to feel inviting. That's for an older classroom, grade 5, but the same concept could be adapted. Look what Jason's done here with limiting a color scheme and how coordinated things feel, how cozy and calming. I mean, just looking at those two images from his Instagram feed make me feel calm. Take a deep breath when you walk in there. Lots of colors, lots of possibilities, open-ended, little delineations within your classroom for smaller groups to meet together. Bean bags. Again, smaller area rugs to delineate pieces and parts of the room. Yoga mats and pillows. Okay, if we're really on a budget, what if we ask for a few of the parents perhaps to send in a yoga mat and keep those in a big bucket and some pillows to add some flexibility to your setting. Here we've got pillows, little stools, and a little scoop chair in one writing center. I put these two from two different people together to show you kind of the other end of the spectrum, right? No great big zigzags and diagonal crisscrossing houndstooth checkerboard. There's a few green polka dots over there, but not a whole lot. A lot of green, a lot of natural. This might be absolutely perfect in an inner city school that's surrounded by concrete to really, the artificial turf rug, if you will, to give some feeling of natural and outdoors. And again, taking a deep breath. Here we have a passion-driven teacher, and she too has chosen to have a more neutral, sedate, calm background. Tundra teacher in 4th by choosing just a couple of colors. In this case, she's got the navy blue, royal blue, and some yellow. And again, it just feels cohesive, like there was some thought. Again, don't panic, don't panic. We can start small. I'm just showing, you know, to know where you want to end up is to know then how to get started, right? Again, some more of the views around Tundra teacher. Mary over in Sharing Kindergarten organizes her classroom around this stool. So there's a red table and there's a purple table. Here we see some inflatable balls as part of a flexible seating, or even tires. And that's quite an in-depth article from the Lifetime Learner on her blog as to how she went about cleaning them and painting them and how long it took to dry and all the other details you might want to know about. And there's remember it was the Kendall Christian School that had the infographic with the 6 benefits. And here's what one of their classrooms looks like. You know, I think it's one thing to look at an empty classroom. It's altogether different, right? Seeing all those little bodies at work. Over on the left, my friend Shelley, there she is, Ms. Dartman out in Nebraska. She just had an amazing on the news, on their local news, a video shot of her kindergarten kids. Twice a month, they go to the nursing home that is nearby and visit with the elders. But here they are in their classroom. And 2 of her girls on the wobbles, and everybody's working hard. If you look in the middle of her picture, you see the kids in the scoop chairs. Over there in the upper right-hand corner, the guys are standing at higher raised tables. And way in the back, there's some kids with clipboards on more traditional seating. All there mixed, you know, right together, right nearby each other. The nice thing about these pieces and parts that can move is literally that they're lightweight, the wobbles can get picked up, and again, you can group and regroup the kids. The newest possibility at Wobble Seat is that they have listened to teachers and they now have a Grow With Me chair that is literally adjustable. So that's not necessary in kindergarten or 1st grade, certainly, but as the kids get older and they come in every single size, the children, it's nice to have wobbles that can be adjusted immediately and directly to fit each of your students. So the next little bit, I want to answer, we had several questions come in ahead of time from people around flexible seating. One was, how do you organize all of these possibilities? So let me show you a couple thoughts. Here in the bottom, the teacher literally has them lined up against the wall, right? There's yoga mats and then the wobbles and the traditional stools and inflatable stability ball and then traditional chairs. So the kiddos can come in and make their selection from there. I saw this idea from Christy on Twitter. This is a do-it-yourself organizing, shelf. That's what it is. It's a shelf. It's a do-it-yourself shelf out of PVC pipe. And here's another slide of it. Once she's gotten some beanbag chairs, so she's gotten it mixed up. And she was even kind enough to give her working directions on Twitter. This is why you need to be on Twitter, people. You never know where you're going to find what. Anyhow, so when you buy 6 10-foot long, 3/4 inches PVC pipe, you can make your own organizational shelf system. Whew. Okay. Now, another question that we received ahead of time was, how do you help guide the children to which alternative seating choice, all of the variation around that question? Let me walk with you into Kelly Grody's kindergarten. This is in the St. Paul School over in Westerville, Ohio. And Kelly and I go way back. I've gotten to be an artist in her classroom, visiting every end of the year May for probably, we think, at least 12 or maybe 13 years. So coming up on maybe year 14. Anyhow, they have a brand new kindergarten room, which as you can see is huge, which is amazing. But make no mistake about it, Kelly has a huge bunch of kiddos. She also has a full-time assistant, so woohoo! All right, Well, when we were talking about the wobbles, I really talked to her specifically about kindergarten kids and what size. The blue ones there are 12-inch, the black ones are 14-inch. And then you can see she's got a table with traditional chairs and these awesome little log pillow sort of things. And in the back, there's some more traditional stools, and then she's got sit-upon on the rug space. Well, anyhow, all of these choices. And I was there before the school day started last May, so I took this picture before the kids walked in the door. And then I took this picture of her, if you will, assignment, organizational, divide and conquer the kiddos. So every kiddo has a photograph on a magnet of their little happy smiling face, and then they come in and choose from the available seats. Kelly does have more seats than children, more possibilities, more choices. And so that is her way of helping the kids decide where they're going to sit. And each day is a new day and they start over again. I think literally every teacher is going to have their own approach and their own way of helping guide that selection process and what it might be to earn it and or keep the opportunity to have the flexible seating choice, to use the rules, 2 feet on the floor, whatever it might be for a specific spot. There was a question asked, and I'm going to turn to Mr. Rogers for the answer, but the general gist of the question was something to the effect of, what do you say to people who say, what are they going to do next year? How are they going to transition out of your classroom with all the alternative flexible seating and then go off into first grade and Mrs. Smith has her traditional desks all in rows? And that's a legitimate question and a concern, I'm sure. Let's read Mr. Rogers' thoughts. He says, I don't think anyone can grow unless he's loved exactly as he is now, appreciated for what he is rather than what he will be. In my mind, Mr. Rogers is saying, when you have the kids and they're with you, you give them everything you're capable of giving them. If you can play the guitar and you sing songs at every transition, then you do that. Maybe you have a piano in the room. Well, how's that child going to go on to somebody that doesn't play the guitar or the piano or the auto harp, whatever it might be? Or maybe you're the mastermind scientist or the brilliant mathematical genius. Well, how will they ever leave your classroom? I think our responsibility and my response to someone would be, I'm going to love these kids this year, right now, exactly as they are now. I'm going to love these 5-year-olds for who they are when they're 5. I'm going to give them the best experience, the most developmentally appropriate experience, fill their day with as much love as possible. And then you're right, I'm going to transition them to the next wonderful person that will do their version of what is awesome. Sir Ken Robinson said something about when they're 3, we have to love them for being 3. It's not like they're half of 6 and they're going to be twice as good when they're 6. If you have 3-year-olds, you need to enjoy them when they're 3. It's not like the 5-year-olds are half of what they're going to be when they're 10. So let's give them what we can while we have them. Now, a big question, in everyone's mind is the funding aspect. Where do I find money to move forward in this direction? I'm convinced it's absolutely, helpful, and I can see the value, and I'm willing, to let some of that control go. Where do I begin? And from the Inspired Treehouse, they have this wonderful infographic of ideas, if you look for them. But 3 that they conclude with in the funding category include Donors Choose, the Kids in Need Foundation, and adoptaclassroom.org. Now, those will require energy and effort on your part to write the grant, to build the project, if you will, to spread the word, to bang the drum, to get the goodies that you're looking for your kids. I also know that people have done things with PTAs. We've had people tell us they've written a grant with a local corporation. And those don't have to be massive corporations. I know Target last year had a grant that included healthy alternatives in the classroom, and certainly this idea of flexible seating would fall under something like that. So definitely keep your ears open, talk to your PTA, talk to your parents. There might be a grandparent out there, you know, who's eager to get started by making one specific purchase that's on your wish list. Now, also, you know, just in general, this is not the first day for flexible seating. People have been at this now for a year and 2 years and 3 years. And, you know, I remember 20 years ago, somebody had an antique bathtub in a kindergarten room that I visited. Okay, so there have been some alternatives for some length of time. And we have these great bloggers who now, all 5 of these articles talk about, you know, the pros and cons, problems and solutions. What I have learned, a must read. Don't throw out all your tables just yet. In other words, do some homework. If you are spending your own dollar, for sure, you don't want to spend any dollar in the wrong place. I'm going to add this humorous footnote before we move on. I'm in a Facebook group of kindergarten teachers, and this picture was posted of Cliff, the hamster, who got loose in the classroom over a lengthy weekend. And he ate or chewed on and deflated all of the inflatable balance balls, if you will. So I just want you to know our wobble seats are indeed hamster proof. Okay, so that concludes that part of our evening. And we're going to move along to collaboration and affirmation. I hope you've heard her TED Talk, right? How brilliant is Rita? Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists they become the best they can possibly be. You're the champion for these kiddos. I think of early literacy as having a triangle of music and movement at the base and authentic art as the extension, if you will, through fine motor and ultimately to writing through authentic art. Talk about collaboration. Is this not the coolest art project for young children you have seen? Anita Dinger shared this photo on our collaborative blog, Pre-K and K sharing. One of the questions that came in ahead of time was, how do you get the boys interested in art? And here is a visual response and an answer to that question. You make it moving and kinetic and open-ended and messy. Boys and having matchbox cars go running through paint, tempera paint, and then, you know, making tracks on a piece of paper. Open-ended, no right or wrong answer, movement, all of those good things. But in this case, to supersize it. And that gets back to the collaboration, which we remember, children are the priority and change is the reality. So collaboration needs to be the strategy. Okay, boys and girls, we're about to do something difficult. Girls and boys and boys and girls, Mrs. Clement is going to try something hard now. So let's all read this together. Reading is breathing in. Everybody breathe in. And writing is breathing out. What I'm going to try to do is switch between my PowerPoint over to my webcam and put my happy little face. There I am. Did you wonder what I looked like? Look, Kristen wanted me to wear my hat tonight. Can you see that? Okay, I'm in my living room and I have on my polka dots, and right here it says no whining. Can you read that? All right, well, now if I'm huge on your screen, what you can do is make me smaller. Okay, so I'm going to make myself smaller. Woo, that was exciting. All right, now let's see if we can still advance the slides. Yes! All right, boys and girls, I'm an author. I'm an illustrator. How exciting is that? And I'm going to teach you some sign language to one of my first songs that was recorded on my first cassette tape. All right, that's how old I am. All right, get your fingers out and everybody make the sign for wonderful. Wonderful and marvelous. Both are the same thing in sign language. And then beautiful, you go right around your beautiful little face and smile. And then magical. Your fingers are moving quick. The kids love to do that one. And now put your hand tight and go across the top. That's the sign for filled. And here's curiosity. Not real flattering for some of us grandmas, and we know who we are, but this is your Adam's apple, and Adam is curious about apples. And then, and dream. All right, so all 6 of those words, actually we're going to use 7 signs if you were counting. Okay, now I got to put on my glasses and go over here and get my sound to turn on. I think you're wonderful. I think you're marvelous. All right. I think you're wonderful. I think you're marvelous. I think you're beautiful, magical, filled with curiosity and dreams. You think I'm wonderful. You think I'm marvelous. I can't tie my shoe. And beautiful, magical, filled with curiosity and dreams. Right, I'm wonderful. You're right, I'm marvelous. I'm a good friend. I'm beautiful, magical, with curiosity and dreams. I think you're wonderful. I think you're marvelous. I think you're beautiful and magical, filled with curiosity and dreams. Right, I'm wonderful. I'm a teacher, marvelous. You're right, I'm beautiful and magical and filled with curiosity and dreams. Means we're wonderful. That means we're marvelous. That means we're beautiful and magical and filled with curiosity and dreams. Big dreams. All right, let me hear you say, oh yeah. There's a cute little ending here. What I do with this is we make a pattern. Everybody, touch your knees. That's it. Oh, you got it. And then we'll clap. All right, now, cross the midline. Over here like this. And then your shoulders. All right, do the whole pattern again. Knees. And clap. And woo! And shoulders. Yay! All right, let me stop the music. Woohoo! All right, so that was one of my first songs, and I hope you saw it. And those are my granny glasses. All right, now let's see. I would like to turn off my webcam so I can go back away. I wonder if I go like that, if I've disappeared. I hope so. Okay. So in the back of the book is the sign language and also the vocabulary words. In the very back, there's a CD insert there with both the sung version we just did and an instrumental as well. Now, teachers, you are the midwives of my ideas. I heard Vera B. Williams, the prolific children's picture book author, say that years ago when she was only 72. You're the midwives of my ideas. You bring them to life. So we're going to talk briefly about the continuum of authentic art and what that means. This, my friends, near and far, is not authentic art. This is, in fact, scary stuff. Woo! It's not student voice, and it's certainly not student choice. This could be classified under following directions, and that's important, certainly in preschool and kindergarten. You need to learn how to use glue. Just don't make the mistake of calling it art. This is, on the other hand, an authentic art response to my picture book. There's the child sitting on the floor with my picture book open, right next to her, and the materials. This is Mr. Gregg's classroom, kindergarten smorgasbord. I hope he's starting to feel better. And this is what 6 of his children created in response before I got to his school for his school visit. Okay, 6 different, unique, original pieces. And that's what I mean, the difference in authentic art. These are young children in preschool, okay? Open-ended, color recognition. And then the teacher is the brilliant one to put the collaborative quilt together. Looks like it belongs in a contemporary art museum or my living room. Here I am. All right, where's Waldo? Those kids have each made a response to the illustrations in my book that you saw in the PowerPoint earlier. I made them from fabric as small quilts. I made 16 small quilts out of fabric. We scanned them and they became then the illustrations within the picture book. Okay, so little children, young children on the left, handprints, pretty sophisticated kindergarten self-portraits. Here we've got self-portraits. This was a school visit I made in Florida, and they're visiting those words, not just wonderful and marvelous, but this child is terrific. And if that's not a terrific self-portrait, look at her hair, look at her eyelashes. She is on the way. This is from a visit in just outside of Austin, and these are preschool kiddos, and those people are Post-it notes. I know you have an entire desk filled with Post-it notes, and what do you do with those Post-it notes? Mrs. Velasquez pre-kindergarten classes folded those Post-it notes into rectangles and triangles of the same size to show how 2 shapes can form one larger shape. Post-it notes, geometry, a little bit of algebra in there, quilt making. This is me during an artist residency where I got to go to an artful learning elementary out Castle Rock in Colorado. And Joe and I put our heads together thinking in terms of how those Post-it notes were so cool. And she got scrapbook paper and had volunteer parents cut them into 2-inch squares. And then the kids kind of had a tic-tac-toe board. And here are some examples of how that turned out. Meanwhile, at the same time, we had a lot of parent volunteers. I think we had at least 8 in the library. There was a photo backdrop, I'm wonderful because. And each kiddo came over, and with the help of the volunteers, they used their iPads and a Big Words app. I run and give hugs to my friends. And then that's what it looked like, putting all 60 of the kindergarten quilt squares together, surrounded by the writing that was done with technology against the photo backdrop. I'm wonderful because. How amazing is that? Okay, one more big idea, talk about collaboration. So this is in Amityville, New York, and I got to be at a kindergarten school with 330 kindergarten kids. The only children in the building were in kindergarten. And they had a dedicated art teacher. How amazing was that? Each kiddo made a quilt square. You put 330 quilt squares together, and it literally went across a traditional old school gymnasium. It was about 8 feet tall, and my husband would testify that it was about 35, 40 feet from end to end, and every kiddo was represented. That's what we call a collaboration, open-ended. All right, and how proud those kids were to come ask, did I like theirs the best? Okay, we have about 10 minutes to go. Are you holding on to your seat? Now we're going to take a look at maker spaces, which I think is like how cool, the coolest new development on the block, and loose parts, if you will. So maker spaces loose parts, that whole mentality of open-ended. I want to start off with, okay, well, here's the definition. What is a makerspace? According to these brilliant men, it's a facility that encourages creative thought to promote innovation through the use and availability of unique resources. What unique resources, you may ask? Well, that's a good question. Okay, and we're going to see unique resources. Because every child has the right to invent, tinker, create, innovate, make, and do. That's how we solve today's problems, is we build better children with greater ideas and insight, right? We give them maker spaces. We're makers. We ask questions. We create. We dream big. We think deep. We make mistakes. We coordinate. From Ben Spire, don't you love her? All right, so we make, we tinker, we hack. We put together, we take things apart. It's all open-ended work where we can collaborate. The first requirement for a maker space is literally some space where you can make things. I'm going to pause for a drink. While you take a look at these creative, attractive invitations to make and build and plan and design and reflect. This mural is above all of the good things in kindergarten blissfulness. So you can see, glue, and it looks like some paper towel rolls and some fabric and who knows what. That was the image. And you can take it a step further. Attagirl says, when in doubt, just keep going, add some more. All right, this may not be in your classroom. This could be in your library, or maybe there's a dedicated makerspace room within your building. Okay, so I'm going to show you the big ones, and then we're going to step back. How do we get started in our classroom? Like this is a big one up in Ann Arbor. I have a feeling this is a public, open, these are adult, maybe college kids making and building, and they've got some technology. I can see a microscope and some drills are in the background. This one looks like it's available to families maybe. We've got some adults and kids, and the ratio of adults to kids makes me think those are probably parents working side by side at Leonardo's basement. Do you love that word? Write that down. Collaboratory. A laboratory that's collaborative is a collaboratory. Okay, and that's in the United Nations International School. Again, lots of upcycling and recycling and tools and screwdrivers and odds and ends, because it's all about the idea and being creative and the innovation and a chance to invent, if you will, and think for solutions. So in this triangle, I think at the bottom, we have to have time. We have to dedicate some time. We have to have the parts, the pieces. My college professor would call it the flotsam and the jetsam. Okay, the things and the bits and the pieces, the loose parts. And then your role is that of support, to ask the questions. Oh, how did that work for you? Did you expect that to happen? What were you going for to offer support, that triangle? The bits and pieces, the time devoted to the innovating and the support of the children. So maybe you don't have an entire, 40 by 40 foot space available for making. Maybe it starts with a bin that's got some glue sticks and some scissors and maybe some crepe paper and some other odds and ends of pieces and parts. I saw these little mini maker spaces in Hilliard last spring when I was, and that's in Ohio, near Columbus, and making a kindergarten classroom visit. And so how exciting is that? And look at this little guy, who's taken those loose parts, again, given the time and the space, and an open-ended invitation. What do you want to make? And this is what he came up with. How do you get boys interested in art? Give them some time and space and some materials. She also had a natural, stones and rocks and acorns. Here's another natural little maker space for design, maybe mandalas. Here's a Reggio-style writing center. We could have a whole evening on Reggio, and what does that mean? But I did get to go to Reggio Emilia in Italy and take a tour across several schools and present my music there to the Italian children. So I got to see some Reggio experiences up close and personal. This is from a Reggio writing center, though, in central Ohio. Lots of pieces. How are you going to organize them? Look at these beautiful ideas from Instagram and one from Twitter. Again, pieces and parts. Create bravely. A STEM studio. Wires and gears and tools. Oh my. A drill. That's no doubt for the older kids. Clipboards at the ready. I love seeing these kids on the left in action. I stalked this Instagram feed, and they have just recently been given 74,000 buttons. What can you do with 74,000 buttons? Well, that is up to quite a bit of creativity. Look at this from Little Makers Academy. Duct tape, styrofoam, some glue. You know, I don't know what those gray foamy things are. You know, creative trash. All right, and save it up. And what's been the instigation to get these kids to work together? I would love if every kindergarten and first grade preschool classroom had a mini maker space that would include, you know, a Duplo wall for the younger kids or a Lego wall, always available, always open-ended. Your maker space can then start to have some Gizbots and Ozbots and movable parts and you know, again, that's a bigger investment than cardboard, you know, paper towel tubes, but we move on from there. Don't you want to get into the makezine.com and go Google how to build coffee bots? All right, that just looks to me so exciting. Talk about STEM, and then adding the arts, right? And you've got little coffee bots that can move and go. What we learn with pleasure, we never forget. Okay, this is going to be fast. We've got 2 more minutes, and I got a lot of slides to show you. All right, just different ways that people have made little invitations to make. All right, and the invitations that they have offered to their students. Natural pieces, nuts and bolts, literally nuts and bolts, brads, cardboard tubing, buttons. What if you put everything on a light table, like Shimmer Teach? What changes if it's on a light table? What if you have it on a chalkboard table? What does that do for your invitation and your making? Cardboard. Maybe you cut out all those cardboard pieces ahead of time and they can duct tape them all back again together and find the most sturdy way to hold things together. From a drawing, a self-portrait, to a sculpture. And that can be done in a maker space with all those wonderful loose pieces that you have available. This is an awesome collaboration that was put together in that Reggio school under their rainforest and mylar and kids with tissue paper and coffee filters. We're near the end. You don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. If there's anyone that you ever follow that believes in taking baby steps and tiptoeing into the future, getting from where you are to where you want to be, it's me, Debbie Clement. Everything I've done, and now 22 years later, that's written and recorded over 100 songs for kids and turned 3 of them into the picture book format. Some videos that are out there, YouTube, and some professionally made ones at the studio with my friends at Zahner Blozer. You could Google that. Anyhow, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. And one final thought. Remember that children and gardens reflect the care they are given. So when we think about that master garden that you're creating and the optimal conditions, how are you going to make things different to conclude this school year? Where can you start? What baby step can you make? What grant can you write? What parent can you involve? Which kiddo can you champion? Which student is going to have a voice, and which student can have more choice, which is going to empower them to collaborate and make this a better place. I hope you've taken a lot of notes and asked a lot of questions, and I'm ready to thank our friends at ESGI. If you knew how much time they have poured into trying to teach me how to do this, you would clap for them until tomorrow morning. But Rochelle and Kristen and Melinda, all three of them are, now those are the women behind ESGI and probably the public faces that you might meet. And then the guys are back in Elkhart, Indiana, where I was born, just a sidebar. But okay, Rochelle, are you there?
Yes, Debbie, thank you. We are all applauding you, and we're getting so many comments about how inspired the teachers are by what you had to say today. And I personally, as you know, I'm very interested in maker spaces. So thank you very much for giving us that information. Now, you have asked a lot of great questions today during the live broadcast. And although Debbie won't be answering those live, she will be answering questions on her blog, Rainbows Within Reach. So make sure you follow her there, and she will follow up on this webinar and on this topic at her blog. Now we have quite a few winners today, so I hope that you've all stayed until the very end. Winner, winner. And here are the winners for the ESGI 1-year licenses. And if you are still on, please comment in the question box. First winner, Shelly Edmonds. Shelly Edmonds, you are a winner of ESGI. Tracy Berger, Karina Maria Rosati, Cindy Villanueva, and May Tilgham. May Tilgham. So we have Shelly, Tracy, Karina, Cindy, and May. You are the winners of the ESGI licenses. We will be sending you an email with your instructions on how to redeem that license. And now for the all-important 3 winners of those wobble seats. We had a lot of conversation, Debbie, about those wobble seats. So these are the 3 winners. Okay. We will email you, and then we will connect you with Debbie so that you can connect and get those wobble seats. Debbie, can they follow you on Twitter or message you on Twitter? What's your Twitter handle?
That they certainly can. That could be confusing though.
Okay, no problem.
I wasn't. Okay, yeah.
No problem. We won't do that.
Queasel Queen.
You are a really big Twitter person. That's why I just thought maybe it'd be easiest.
So however, that's Queasel Queen. But an email would work.
Okay, great. Sorry to be confusing. The wobble winners are Amparo Castillo, Denise Willoughby, and Carmen Guggenberger. So Amparo, Denise, and Carmen, we will connect you with Debbie so that you can redeem your wobble seats. Okay. Thank you so much, Debbie, for presenting this great information today. Don't forget to check your email in the next 2 days to find a certificate of participation, your freebie, Debbie Song, and a link to this recording. We hope that you'll join us next month for more ESGI webinars. Thanks again, Debbie, and everyone have a great night.
Good night. Woo-hoo!